They were innocent. They were victimized by someone older, more powerful, someone they probably knew and trusted. It wasn't their fault. They did not deserve what happened to them. Whoever did this to them knew what they were doing and knew that it was wrong. Because of what happened to them, they probably feel guilty, like it was their fault. They might have been told that it was their fault, and they believed it. They probably think that there was something wrong with them. They probably don't ever want to talk about it because of that and because of the shame of what happened to them. But it wasn't their fault. They were too young to give consent. They had no control over what was done to them. They were children. Because of what happened to them, they have learned to hide what happened to them, because they are afraid that no one would believe them, because they would be blamed, because they are ashamed about what happened, because people will think that there is something wrong with them, that they will become perpetrators, or that they are gay. So they learn to put on masks and hide behind them. They hide the pain and the shame. They hide the feeling that they are failures. Who are they? Why did this happen to them? Where was God? Why did God allow this to happen to them? Were they bad? And is that why this happened? Since they have hid their feelings, they have had to find other ways to cope. Abusing drugs or alcohol, being sexually promiscuous, or being addicted to porn, controlling themselves with food or overeating, or starving themselves, becoming macho, super masculine, to self-protect, keep people distant, avoid close relationships to keep from getting hurt, disassociating to check out whenever feelings become overwhelming, or clinging to the wrong people because that is what they understood. Some survivors resort to self-harm, cutting, burning, pulling out hair, because they have become numb to feelings, and that is the only way to experience and feel anything.
Hi, I'm Lori.
And I'm Kevin, and this is No Longer Ashamed.
We are survivors of childhood sexual abuse.
And we're here to share with you that if you're a survivor, you don't have to be alone.
Our logo is a salamander, and the reason is a fire salamander can survive a fire, and you have survived a fire.
We want to help you with your journey to healing and hope.
We are all survivors together, and we walk this journey together, and you are not alone.
By telling our stories, we are hoping that you will have the courage to share your stories as well and find your voice.
Because stories are so important, and for so long I know that I wouldn't tell my story, but when I finally shared my story, that's when I got my freedom.
And this is our journey and your journey to healing and hope. So come with us. Recently we had a listener contact us and told us about how for years they did not seek counseling, and they said that they felt they didn't need it. But then when they finally did get counseling, their partner was angry with them for taking so long to go to get counseling, because it really had been affecting them and their relationship. And I just wanted to talk about why it can be so hard to seek counseling and instead just push on and act like it's not really affecting you. I think one of the main reasons, at least for me, that kept me from going to counseling was fear. It's really scary for many reasons. It's scary to revisit what you'd been through. It's scary to share that with someone, not knowing how they're going to react. It's scary to not know how you're going to feel when you share about what happened to you. And it's also scary because you don't know how that's going to affect your family, your relationships. How are they going to react if you bring all this up? And that's a really valid fear. But I think for most people, it's easier just to act like it's not really affecting you and avoid having to go back back there. I think another reason why it's so hard is for many people to admit that they need help can be difficult. For survivors, admitting that you aren't in control is really hard to say that you do need help, because many of us have had to rely on ourselves. Many of us did not get the help that we deserved when we were going through trauma, and so we had to rely on ourselves. And so to seek help now means that you can't just rely on yourself, that you do need help. And for some people, that loss of control is really scary. But I think that you really have to be ready to seek counseling, to realize that it is going to be hard, it's going to be scary at first, and it might make things uncomfortable with your relationships, but in the long run, it's going to make things a lot better as far as your relationships with your family and your significant other, especially with your significant other. And I believe what most people don't realize is how hard it can be to take that step to go seek counseling, to find the person that they can talk about this with. It's not easy to go back there. It's not easy to look at what happened to you, and also there's a lot of survivors that struggle with guilt about what they did when they experienced the trauma and what they did as a result of the trauma they experienced, and also the way they're coping with it. For many survivors, they find a way of coping that might not be very healthy, but it's comfortable. Especially if it works for them in the short term, they don't want to give that up because it's going to be uncomfortable to give that up. Maybe they don't want to have to give that coping methods. Plus, they might feel guilty about the ways they've been coping, and they don't want to admit it. There's so many things that make it hard to want to go to counseling that I really want to emphasize, to have compassion towards survivors and don't push them into counseling. I think the harder you push them, the more they will push back initially. And maybe it's easier for them just to not have to face that. If your partner or someone you know has been through trauma of abuse, rather than pushing them into getting counseling, I think it's important to just encourage them that it will make a difference in their lives. Maybe point out how things can be better for them if they get through counseling. And if they're not ready, don't discourage them or don't criticize them for not being ready. A lot of survivors need the time to get to a place where they feel comfortable exploring what happened to them. I think what I'm emphasizing is compassion is really important when dealing with someone that's a survivor of abuse. There's a lot of reasons why it can be hard to get counseling, and if they're not ready, just pushing them is going to make it harder for them. I think having compassion, being respectful of how they're feeling, and encouraging them how it can get better for them, and maybe giving them the space to just share and not rush can make it easier for them. I think for someone who's not a survivor, it's hard to understand how difficult it can be to share what we've been through with anyone, even a counselor. And part of that is going back to what happened. It's so much easier just not to remember what happened and not to look at that anymore. Just push it all down. I know that healing comes from addressing what you've been through, and if you just ignore it and push it down, there's a lot of consequences. It can really affect you mentally as well as physically. It can take a great toll on you in many ways, and it can also affect your relationships with your family, with your loved ones. So there's many reasons why to get counseling and why to address, but it's also very scary at first, or it can be. And I think the main point point I'm pushing is being understanding of why it can be so hard. This isn't easy, especially at first. It can be really scary, and because it's something unknown, it's easier to stick with what you know. It's easier to stay in what feels comfortable than to try something new that you don't know what it's going to be like. You don't know how hard it's going to be, and you don't know how you're going to react. So having understanding is very important. And it's also important to give them space when they are first going to counseling. I think it's important not to pry, not to expect them to be ready to talk about it right away. I think a lot of survivors, when they go to counseling, they need a safe space just to digest what they're going through and what it's like. Maybe a safe time for them to journal or to meditate or do stretching, yoga, or do artwork. Maybe a safe time for them to just listen to music or take a bath by themselves. Time by themselves can be very important when they're first going through counseling. The feelings and the memories that come up might be very uncomfortable, very difficult for them to handle, and having that safe space to just spend time with those feelings and memories is important. Ask them what they need and what you can do for them, what it is that would make it easier for them when they're going through counseling. Do they need space, or do they just need someone to talk about it with? Do they just need someone to cry with? Do they need time alone so they can journal, or do they need time with someone to talk about what they've been going through? It's important to be clear that you're there for them, but you also want them to have the space or time that they need, and also understand that things might change as they go through therapy, as they go through counseling. They might start behaving differently about things. They might start setting boundaries with their family or friends. They might feel the need to confront the perpetrator. They might feel the need to go to the police and file a report. All of these things might be really hard for them, and if you're their partner or friend, could be hard for you. All of this is to say that it can be so hard for a survivor of abuse to seek counseling. So if someone you know is a survivor, it's important to have compassion towards them if they are not ready to go to counseling. It's important to have understanding that it can be really hard to get the therapy they deserve. And if you are a survivor, yes, it is very hard. It can be hard work. It can be very scary at first, but it is so important, and it can change your life in such a good way. It can make things so much easier for you. It's hard at first, but it can make your life so much better to get the therapy, to get the counseling that you deserve. So that's it for today.
We are going to have a prayer time if you want to stick with us. If not, we believe in you.
We want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories.
If you like this podcast, please rate and review, because that's how other people can find us. And we really want to spread this message.
Father, I thank you for all your blessings. I pray for anyone listening that you would bless them with compassion and mercy and grace, that they would feel your compassion towards them and your love of them, and they would feel comforted by you, Lord. I pray for anyone who is a friend or partner of a survivor, that you would help them to have understanding and compassion and the strength to be there for their friend or their partner. And Lord, I pray for anyone who's a survivor, that you would give them the strength to get the help they deserve and to do the work that will help them with their issues and help them to have healing. Lord, I just pray for your healing in their lives. In your name I pray. Amen.